Hello, this is Dave from cheapbooks.com. I am playing World of Tanks. The tank that I'm going to do an overview of today is the SU100Y, which is a Russian Tier 6 premium tank, and it is a tank destroyer. This tank, besides being a Tier 6 tank destroyer, has a top speed of 35 kilometers, which means it's somewhat of a moderate speed. The traverse speed is 30 degrees per second, which is how fast it spins around. I would say this is also a moderate speed in terms of how fast it speeds around. And it has 6 crew members. And 6 crew members, if you watch my other videos, you'll find that you have an advantage to having 6 crew members if you like to do crew training. And usually premium tanks, because they have a 50% bonus, are great for doing crew training. So you can train 6 crew people at the same time. The experience is not divided up between each crew member. Each crew member gets the same amount of experience that's earned in the game. So if you had 4, each one would get the same amount. If you had 5, each one gets the same amount, etc. Now, the first thing you're going to notice about this is that it has a Tier 8 gun. And the Tier 8 gun on a Tier 6 tank gives you a huge advantage on the battlefield. This particular gun has a rate of fire of 3.75 rounds per minute. That's extremely slow. That means you probably have to wait a good 20-30 seconds in order to reload. You'll also notice that the average penetration with the standard rounds is 196, which is actually higher than what they call the gold round or the premium round. The premium round has a lower penetration of 171, however it does more damage. So that average penetration of 196 and the damage of 440 is actually very good for a Tier 6 tank, and it might even be one of the most powerful guns in Tier 6. I'm going to show you a comparison. Average penetration 196. We're going to look at another Tier 6 tank destroyer, which is this one right here. You're going to see that it only has 144 penetration, 175, 175, 120. So the SU100Y has 196, 440. This one has 175, 390. Has a much higher penetration rate, and it does more damage. Let's get back to this. We'll look at the gun again. The aiming time is 2.9 seconds, which is somewhat slow. Ideally, you want a faster aiming time, especially because it's a tank destroyer, which means you might want to get the gun laying drive. The rate of fire being slow, you might want to get the tank gun rammer if it's available. The radio has a 440 signal range. Unfortunately, because it's an elite premium tank, you cannot change the radio or the gun. The 440 signal range will get you across approximately half the map for most maps, and it is a little bit short, so 440 is not the best signal range, but it could be worse. So hopefully you will have a good radio crew member who can extend that signal range, get the relaying and the other radio features. But then again, the signal range is only more important at the end of the game when you have to locate targets that are being spotted by people that might be far away from you. The engine is 890 horsepower. That's excellent. It should have a lot of power. And the traverse speed is 30. Again, 30 is relatively slow, and with a tank destroyer, you really want a higher traverse speed. One of the ways to improve it is to have the clutch braking feature for the driver. Clutch braking will allow you to spin that tank a little bit faster, and as you know, if you play tank destroyers, you know the importance of being able to spin your tank. So that's the basic overview of the SU100Y that's specific to itself. Obviously, it has all the benefits of a premium vehicle. You don't have to research it. You get additional credits. You get additional combat experience for each battle. You can convert your combat experience to free experience. You can transfer your crew among different tanks. For example, if you have the SU100, you can move the crew into the SU100Y without having to retrain them, without having to pay anything. You've got accelerated crew training, which means that what you can do is choose one of your crew members to receive more experience than the others. He would get double the experience in exchange for free experience. And you get 50% more crew experience per battle. As you can see, they made one prototype. It never went into battle. One of the things you have to be aware of, as you can see in the picture, this is a large tank. One of the larger tanks in the game is the KV-2. The KV-2 has depending on which gun you have, has a rather large turret, and this one does also. The turret itself is bigger than the KV-2. But perhaps not as tall. So it is a very big tank, and if you're aiming at it from the side, it's an easy target to hit. From the front, it might be a little bit different, but it's still it's a big tank compared to other tank destroyers. If you compare it to something like the SU100, which is right here, you can see that the SU100 is a very compact design, and the SU100Y is huge. It's also because it's a premium tank, you have to purchase it using gold. Today the current price is 3,250 gold. I'm going to estimate that might be $10 to $15. I'm not sure the exact price. Depending on how much you get your gold for, you should obviously try to get your gold at a discount, or pay whatever the current price is in the store if it's available in the store. Okay, so having 6 crew members means you're probably going to have the commander, the gunner, the loader, the driver, a radio operator, and then you'll probably have a second loader. What you're going to want to do is make sure that your commander has more skills than the rest of your crew. That's very important if you can get it. You probably want your gunner to have good skills, especially anything that can improve accuracy, which unfortunately I don't think there is a gunner skill for. But there is definitely a gunner skill which is called Deadeye, which allows you to increase the amount of damage. And there's another one called Dedicated Target, which gives you an extra second or two. They say it's 2 seconds, but people who've tested it have reported that it might only be 1 second. Basically, if you're aiming at a tank, you can get an extra second to shoot at him. Might not make a big difference if you're waiting for a reload, but if you're fully loaded, it could be an advantage in the game. Because of the weak radio, you're probably going to want to have the signal boosting. Because it is a tank destroyer and you need to see tanks that are far away, you're probably going to want the commander to have recon, and you're probably going to want your radio operator to have situational awareness to allow you to see further. And that's not your radio signal range, but it's your ability to see in general. In terms of the horsepower and the engine, the top speed is only 35, and the traverse speed is relatively slow. So the way to fix that is to have a driver with off-road driving. And off-road driving basically means when you're not on pavement. And how often are you not on pavement in the game? Almost always. So having the off-road driving might be a good skill, especially in the beginning of the game when you're hurrying to get to the spot where you plan on sniping from. And you probably want to get that the clutch braking so that you can spin your tank around as fast as possible, because you don't have that turret. And that's going to become handy in matches where you have to fight a battle within a town and you might be turning your tank around frequently, or if an enemy tank is circling behind you and you want to spin your tank around to be able to take a shot at him. Okay, so that is this tank, and the other options you have are you can equip it with things like coated optics, with the binocs. Because the tank is relatively still, it doesn't move around a lot for most players, the binocs might be a good option because the binocs only work when your tank is not moving. And of course, camouflage is very important. You probably want to have the camo net on because you're probably also going to be using that while your tank is not moving. Anything that can improve your accuracy, as I mentioned before, like a gun laying drive, very important. This tank doesn't have a fast aiming time, doesn't have a fast loading time, so you probably want a gun rammer, the ammo ramming device, if you can get one. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments about the SU100Y, please post them below. This is not going to include any gameplay. It's just giving you an overview of some of the differences or some of the things that you might expect or not realize. The most important thing, if you remember anything about this tank, is that it has a very powerful gun. Thank you.